Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sunny Go One Piece podcast. On this bonus episode, we're going to be diving into season 2 of the Netflix live action series and all the news that's come out about it, specifically the ones that came out with Netflix's TUDUM event, as well as this year's One Piece Day celebration event. We got not quite a full trailer in the TUDUM event, but we did get a teaser trailer for the One Piece Celebration Day, so we'll get into both of those in this episode. So yeah, let's start with the TUDUM reveal, because this one was a lot shorter, and it was kind of a little disappointing, because, I think a lot of us were expecting more news, but we did get a pretty substantial new reveal, and that's Chopper. We finally got to see what Chopper is going to look like in the live action, and he is in fact going to be all CGI, or at least his brain point appearance is going to be all CGI. I've heard rumors that maybe they might actually put someone in a suit for his heavy point, and obviously I would assume his walk point and all the other rumble ball transformations are going to be CGI as well, because I can't imagine doing any of those in any other way. But I thought overall he looked really great. He still has sort of his cartoonish anime cuteness look, but he does seem like he fits in fairly well into the live action environment. I think what's really going to do it for me is how he looks when he's near human characters, because that's one thing we don't get to see in this, because right now he's just a fully CGI character, and it could be no different than watching like a Pixar movie or Shrek or anything like that. But yeah, I thought overall Chopper looked great, considering. And I think that's one thing that the live action seems to be doing really well, considering the new footage we got to see in the One Piece Day trailer. Now, Chopper himself will be played by Michaela Hoover, and I thought she sounded really good. She's obviously not Iko Otani for sure, but she does seem to capture that sort of playful, young, and sort of naive charm that Chopper has. But she also has that really like shyness. That's really the only sort of emotion we get from Chopper in this little tease is his sort of like shyness at introducing himself to the world, as it were. Now, Michaela Hoover has actually played a furry companion, CGI companion, in most recently at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. She plays the little cybernetic bunny Floor, and I thought she was great in that role as well. Obviously, she didn't have a very big role, but man, when I don't really want to spoil Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 because it's still a relatively more recent movie. But there is a very emotional moment with Rocket, and Floor is yelling at him in desperation. And that scene, it's a really good scene, but also incredibly heartbreaking. But also, even more recently, she's played Cat Grant in Superman, the most recent one just earlier this summer in 2025. And while she doesn't have a very big role in that, she seemed to be doing pretty great in that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Michaela Hoover does with Chopper and how she'll portray him. And yeah, I think definitely the biggest thing with Chopper is going to be, just how they're going to handle his transformations, how they're going to handle all of that, and what he'll look like when he's interacting with the human people, the human actors and human characters. So yeah, aside from that, the other really disappointing thing about the TUDUM event was the fact that it was revealed that season 2 would not come out till 2026. And we still don't even know when in 2026 that will come out, whether it will be earlier in the year, midpoint of the year, or maybe even at the end of the year. If it was at the end of the year, that would be massively brutal, because that means it'll be well over 3 years before season 2 comes out, ever since season 1 premiered. But, with this newest trailer on One Piece Day, we did get some good news in the sense that it's still going to be 2026 and we still didn't get an official release date. we learned that season 3 is actually has been greenlit by Netflix and will be starting production, if not has already, because there have been a lot of rumors and, like, interview slip ups from many of the actors, like basically mentioning that either they've already started production on or pre-production on season 3. I don't think any shooting or principal photography has been started with season 3, but yeah, a lot of the actors have mentioned or slipped up and said something about season 3. So it was definitely a poorly kept secret for sure. But it is nice to see that Netflix has officially acknowledged that season 3 is on its way already. And so that's awesome, because yeah, you can't have season 2 and that drum and not finish the Arabasta saga at all. That'd be so cruel if they canceled it after season 2. But yeah, I'm glad that season 3 was greenlit. I think before I start with the with talking about the One Piece Day trailer, overall, I really like just the look. I feel like, season 1 looked pretty good, but it's definitely very apparent that a lot of it was shot in like these very claustrophobic sound stages and sets. And the sets are beautiful, don't get me wrong. I think they were really great. But, One Piece, a lot of the places are outdoors. You see many places in these big sprawling islands, and you want to see that. And one thing I noticed about this new trailer is that, yeah, you see a lot more of these wide open spaces. You get to see Logtown, Whiskey Peak, Little Garden. I mean, and it seems like they've actually shot a lot of it either on location or at least in outdoor sets, and it looks really good. And the other thing that I really noticed a lot about is the costumes. Like, the costumes were on point in the season 1, but man, season 2, the costumes look so great, and a lot of the new characters too, which I'll get into when we talk about each moment in the trailer. But overall, the costumes look amazing. They look so accurate to the source material without looking, like cosplay. It actually looked like functional gear, which I really liked. So, but yeah, with that sort of, the other thing I kind of wanted to point out too is we don't get anything when it comes to Drum Island. So anything in regards to the Drum Island arc is absent in this. And I would assume that either it's because they maybe haven't started on the CGI effects and post-production on Drum Island, or this is kind of one of my worries about season 2 about One Piece, is maybe perhaps they aren't showing Drum because they are potentially going to split the season up in terms of release, because you see that happening with a lot of Netflix's shows, particularly like Stranger Things. They'll take one season and they'll drop one half of the season, and they'll let some time pass, and then they'll drop the second half of that season. And so maybe I'm wondering if that's what they're going to do here. But then again, it's like, unless, we already know that the season's only going to be 8 episodes long. And if you're lumping Logtown, the Twin Capes, Whiskey Peak, and Little Garden, you're basically only leaving 2 episodes or 2 or 3 episodes at max for Drum Island. And I don't know that you can really drop half a season just to drop like the last third of a season instead of going, splitting in half. But who knows? It could also be just the fact that they want to save Drum Island because it's kind of the finale of the season, and so they have to be careful about what they show. And also, how can you show Drum Island stuff without Chopper? And I would assume that a lot of the CGI has to go into just Chopper alone, and so they may not be ready to show Drum Island yet. But yeah, with that, let's get into the trailer piece by piece, because it is a very short trailer, so I'll just go moment by moment because there's not really much to really sort of go into. So the first opening shot is the Mary coming up on the red line, which looks so great. Like, they capture the red line so amazingly with the fog and just the scale of it. Because you can see, if you look ahead, you can see this thin line going up it. And like the Going Merry is like pretty large in the foreground, and you see the red line, this massive wall. Still, they're very far away from it because you can see the reverse mountain river that they're eventually going to go up and then down it. It's like this tiny line. It's crazy. Yeah, I think the red line looks great. And we see a little bit more about a closer shot towards the end of the trailer, which we'll go over. But the next few shots is a rapid montage of different shots from the series. The first we see Logtown, just as we saw in Charithra's little walkthrough that we got through the social media accounts. And I think the most prominent reference or Easter egg we see here is the Manmayer sign on the building in the center. Now, I'm not sure what this building actually is, but we first learned of this name actually during one of the more recent arcs, and in the current arc, there is a character bearing this name that makes their first appearance. And so this name becomes a pretty big, important piece of lore later on. And it's interesting that they threw that in here just as a sort of maybe as an Easter egg or a wink to that. I won't get into specifically what that is because I want to try and avoid spoilers for anything beyond this, this part of the story, and even within this, this arc, I'm going to try and avoid like major story spoilers. I'll definitely point things out, obviously. So there are obviously going to be some spoilers for the first half of the Grand Line, or not the first half, but this first section, the Arabasta saga, and so yeah, just be aware of that. But yeah, Logtown looks pretty well realized, and we obviously saw it at the opening in the season 1 with Roger's execution, but we see it in the modern day now. And it looks like many of the sets were built practically. And again, like I said, the sets look awesome. That this intersection, as well as a few of the shops we see in some of the promo, social media posts, like we also see like Ippon Matsu's shop where Zoro eventually gets his swords, as well as 2 new locations like the Execution Tower and the Town Square are pretty prominently displayed here, where it looks like for the live action it will have some of this sort of celebratory carnival for it being sort of the execution day celebration where they celebrate Roger's execution or the anniversary of it, and you can even see the banner for that on the left of that Manmayer building in the opening shot. And yeah, it looks great, and I'll get into a little bit more about this when we get to that one shot with Luffy. But next we see our first look at the Straw Hats walking through the jungles of Little Garden, which again I applaud them for actually like going out into a forest, into like a jungle area. And this shot is an overhead shot of Zoro and Sanji wading through the jungle, which could be the start to their dinosaur hunting duel before they split up. In the manga, they almost immediately, when they get off of the Merry, they go their separate ways. But maybe they start off they start arguing for a little while, then they split up. And then the money shot of the Straw Hats arriving at Whiskey Peak. And that establishing shot of the Merry pulling up to Whiskey Peak, so good. Like, oh my god. It looks like it was ripped straight out of the manga and the anime. Whiskey Peak looks amazing. Like, it looks exactly like it with the huge cactus or cacti, and even though we can't see it, the little spikes on the cactus aren't actually like spines, they're tombstones. So I hope we get to see that when we get to see the live action or the real thing. But then we get a shot of the crew walking through the main street of Whiskey Peak, and it really captures that small desert sort of town feel with sort of the Mexican style buildings, especially the one straight ahead in the center looks a lot like one of those rooftops that Zoro later fights with the bounty hunters on. And probably the biggest blink and you'll miss it Easter egg in this scene is if you look in the far left of the screen, you'll notice a taller man with a large light colored hair, curly, like old timey powdered wigs from colonial times, and that is most definitely Mr. 8, aka Igaram. And I love how they just leaned into his hair. Like, it's massive when you really look at it. Like, it obviously he's like really tiny in the trailer, and if you're not paying attention, you'll just miss him. But yeah, his hair is huge, and I love that. And I hope the shotguns are in the hair, and they show that at some point, because yeah, that was really cool to see when I finally got home, because I originally watched this on my phone, but when I got home and watched it on in HD on a big screen, I was like, that's Igaram. So that was really fun to see. Then we get the moment Luffy finds the execution tower where Roger was executed at. And the tone of this scene is a little different. So in the manga, Luffy sort of has this sort of almost speechless reverence for it, while the live action has that same reverence, but Luffy's more like, I don't know, he's more happier seeing this. He's like giving a head nod to Roger as a sign of respect. And I kind of like it. I like this sort of tone. I mean, not to say that I didn't like the manga and the anime version of it, but I do like that Luffy has a little bit more of a playful attitude about it, more so than like, oh my gosh type of thing, because I think it fits Luffy a little bit more. One thing I really like in this scene, though, is the lighting. So they chose to, I think, do most of Logtown at night, obviously, because one of the things that Netflix likes to do is to shoot a lot of things at night or in dark spaces to kind of hide the CGI and sort of make CGI look better. But one thing I think that really works with this is that if you recall from the manga and the anime, when Luffy is standing across from the execution tower and he's staring at it for the first time, the background goes white. It just completely disappears, and it's just Luffy and the execution tower kind of connecting him with Roger. And I like that in the live action, they can basically darken everything else and just have lighting on the tower and Luffy, almost recreating that exact same tone and feel of that moment. And I love that they did that, because it looks really good, and it pays that same reverence and significance of that moment. So yeah, I love the lighting of this scene. It looks really good, and it matches what the manga was really going for at that moment. Now, after this shot, we get our first good look at Brendan Murray as Broggy. And granted, it was just one brief shot. I thought the CGI and compositing looked pretty good. This is, of course, the scene of Broggy stumbling upon the Mary and with Usopp and Nami on it. Now, I do wonder if it's just a perspective, but Broggy does look a little smaller, because when you look at it in the manga, Broggy's huge compared to the Going Merry. Like he's like 3 times the size of it, and even in that shot, he's like kneeling down or bending over a little bit, so he looks even smaller. But even then, he's like twice as big as the Merry's main mast, and so he does look a little smaller. And again, this could just be perspective, but I thought the compositing looked great. There's obviously it's not as good as it could be. You could probably beef it up a little bit, but I do think, it works for me. I when I first saw this, I didn't think it was like bad looking or took me out of the scene or anything like that. Now, obviously, we'll need to see them in action really to see properly how this all looks. But I thought this first tease of a giant looks good. I think I know, because that was one thing I was really worried about was, how to convincingly portray the giants because of how big they are. And whether the sort of the layering and compositing of the two images would look all right and how they would interact with each other. I think that's the biggest thing. Like say, if Luffy's on Dory's shoulder or something like that, and see what that would look like, and or if one was like standing really close to them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. But then, probably my favorite moment of the trailer, we get the money shot reveal of Lyra Abova as Miss All Sunday and future Straw Hat Nico Robin. This part was chills inducing. Like, what an entrance as she blows open a pair of doors with only a hint to her Hana Hana powers, as we see all these like pink sakura petals flooding the hall. It looks amazing. We don't get to see any limbs or anything, but it looks so good. And I have to imagine they're either saving seeing the limbs, or the CGI just isn't ready for it yet. But I mean, she looks so good. Her outfit is almost, or her outfit is almost exactly ripped straight out of the manga. Her white cowboy outfit with the long coat and the cowboy hat and the dark dress underneath. But this moment must be like original to the live action, because I don't know when this would take place, since she doesn't actually put that outfit on until they get to Arabasta. Because as you remember, when her first original introduction during Whiskey Peak, or at the end of it, she's just in her purple sort of two-piece outfit with the purple cowboy hat. And so not only that, but if you look close, this is a Marine base. And another really cool sort of blink and you'll miss it moments is there's two bust statues on either side of her on the door. And the one on the left is the current Fleet Admiral Sengoku, and the one on the right is the current Commander-in-Chief Kong. Now, the design, since these two characters haven't been cast in the live action, the designs of these statues are ripped straight out of their actual manga designs. So they look like their manga selves, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. The only Marine base I could think that she would be kind of on would be the one in Logtown. So I know maybe because of the significance of Robin to the overall story of One Piece, maybe they're going to try and expand her role in season 2, and she's going to show up throughout the series, and maybe she'll be like a one of the B plots, or maybe like a C plot, to kind of balance things out. And because the live action season 1 really liked to split the story up to kind of save money and save time, and have a lot of the story focus on like Garp and Kobe and Hirameppo. So maybe you'll have like a story with Smoker and Tashigi, as well as Robin kind of doing her thing. But yeah, it'll be interesting, because it's been highly theorized that the Baroque works and Robin specifically will have a slightly larger role kind of in connection with Wapol, that maybe Wapol is either linked to the Baroque works, or maybe he works for them, or maybe they have some sort of an uneasy alliance, because there have been some sort of set images that have either leaked or have been announced, where you can see Wapol's Jolly Roger set against the Baroque works, the wings and the cross swords and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what direction they take that, and whether they'll give Robin a larger role. I mean, I hope they do, because I'd love to see more of Robin in the series, because if you remember correctly, she has a very small role in this part of the story. Because before we get to Arabasta, you only really see her in 2 scenes, really, and that's it. And only one of them is a really significant one. The other one's just kind of a really like 1 minute scene where she's talking to Crocodile about the situation on Little Garden. Next is a really brief shot of Zoro wielding the Sandai Kitetsu, which looks amazing, by the way. And later on, we'll get a clear shot of all 3 of the swords, including the newly acquired Yubashiri on his waist. And this scene looks like it's taken from the Whiskey Peak fight while he's fighting the bounty hunters, which we'll get to see more of later in the trailer as well. But before that, we get the reveal of another major new character, one that was teased as the post-credit scene, and that's Smoker. So he is played by Callum Kerr, complete with his 2 cigars and billower bike and everything. I love the fact that the live action is just leaning into the wackiness of the characters and staying true to them in that way where they can. Obviously they had to take some liberties with some characters, but I mean, they could have easily just given him 1 cigar, or not even have him actually smoke a cigar, but just have them, attached to his jacket and stuff like that. But they actually went the extra mile and had him put 2 cigars in his mouth, which is awesome to see. And the other cool thing is, while we don't actually see him use his Moku Moku smoke powers, you can briefly see when he steps on the ground after getting off his bike, like this puff of smoke comes up. And you know that that's a reference to the fact that the bike is powered by his feet, turning into smoke, and he kind of just rotates it and feeds the smoke, powering the propulsion to it. So I believe that's kind of indicating, yeah, he was just riding it. And when he steps down, you can see that puff of smoke come up. Yeah, we don't really get to see too many Devil Fruit powers being used in this trailer for sure. The only one is later when Luffy uses the Gatling. And so I think this is the big one though. We need to see what a Logia fruit user would look like and how they handle a Logia power, because that's the hardest one to sort of adapt, I feel like. We kind of get a sense of what it could look like as we saw in the live action Avatar series. The Avatar The Last Airbender series, we saw the fire bending and the water bending, and even like, I guess air bending's not quite smoke, but we got to see some of that. And so I think it looked all right in Avatar. I think the water is probably the weakest one, just because like water is really hard to do in CGI, it seems like. The firebending looked awesome. The airbending, there's only so much you can do in live action with airbending. But, with something like smoke where it's actually very visible, I think you can do a lot. It's just, yeah, how that interacts with the human characters and what that looks like in relation to them, it, again, is the big thing. Because, you have moments where the smoke is just covering Luffy and even picks him up at one point and slams him on the ground, or when Smoker, like half of his body turns into smoke and he's sort of like jumping up in the air or flying through, the streets. That's going to be the real test of the CGI in terms of Devil Fruit powers. I thought, I always thought, Buggy's powers translated pretty well in live action. Luffy's is still a little iffy, although the Gomu Gomu no Gatling at the end of this actually looks a lot better than it did even in season 1, I feel like, when he finished off Arlong. But yeah, I do think it's still going to be a challenge, especially season 2. I mean, you're going to have so many crazy ones. Not just Smoker, but obviously Mr. 3 with his Dodododo wax powers, Dalton with his Bison transformation, and obviously Chopper, Wapol. I guess Wapol you can kind of get away with a lot of that, because I think they're probably gonna scale back on that with his Baku Baku powers. But yeah, we don't really get to see many Devil Fruit powers in this trailer yet. So again, that's probably due to the fact that post-production is still probably very much a long ways from being done, especially if this is not set to come out till 2026. So that's, you're looking at least like 5 months out at the earliest. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to see some of that in the main trailer whenever that comes out. But then we get another scene with Luffy jumping through the jungles of the little garden. And this is the only moment I thought was a little iffy, as it really is apparent that Iñaki is jumping on wires in an indoor set rather than, the other shots that seem to be on location. And he just looks really floaty. It's a really minor nitpick, but you can really tell he's jumping on wires. But yeah, this scene, I think, is probably the moment Luffy is chasing Mr. 3 through the forest before coming upon his wax statue clones. Yeah, it certainly gives off that vibe. And then there's sort of a rapid shot of the Strong Hats, one where we get the moment where Sanji finds Mr. 3's wax hut hideout. And this scene specifically, I wonder if they'll lean again into the really wacky and have Sanji come face to face with the Unluckies, aka Mr. 13 and Miss Friday, who are not humans, by the way, but they are rather intelligent otters, are an intelligent otter and vulture. So, I kind of hope that we do get them, but I can easily see them just completely doing away with the Unluckies. But dude, I really want to see because they're gonna have to do some of the animals at some point. I suppose they could get away with not having the unluckies, not having Karu, or the Kung Fu Dugongs, like. But man, I really want to see them, especially Karu. Like, if they're gonna cut out all the other animals, Karu has to be in here. Like, Karu is Vivi's best friend. And yeah, they're inseparable. And he has some amazing moments, obviously, during the Arabasta conflict, especially when it comes to saving Vivi and all that stuff. But yeah, I hope that Karu stays in there, even if it costs us the unluckies. Now, there's also another scene where I think Nami is sneaking around in Whiskey Peak based on her clothes, which, by the way, she is wearing. I love that they chose to have her dressed in the anime outfit, which is the black tank top with the pink sort of fishnet things. Because in the manga, I don't know if you know this, but in the manga, she's actually wearing the same outfit she was wearing on during the Twin Capes era, that sort of like that crossed patterned with the blue heart, that she's and that's also translated really well. I love that for Nami because she naturally has all her wardrobe changes throughout the manga and the anime, that they just literally rip that out and just give her new clothing for that. While the guys, obviously they didn't change costumes or outfits very much earlier on in the series, and so they are being ripped from a lot of the the color spreads. Like, I think the one that I recognize was from Color Spread 140, which is that really cool one with Nami kind of like in the foreground with a gun, and she's kind of shrouded in shadows, and you see all the guys kind of everywhere. And so yeah, a lot of the guys' outfits are ripped straight out from the color spreads. And then we see Usopp wearing his new goggles. Dude, I love how the goggles look in the live action. They look so good. I almost wish I could get like a replica of that thing because it looks so true to the manga and the anime. And I hope that they kind of show when Usopp got the goggles. Not the anime version, but the unused manga version. So if you're not aware, and I've mentioned this in the podcast in an earlier episode, but Oda actually did sort of do like rough sketches of the moment where Usopp actually gets these goggles in Logtown, but he had to cut it for time and space purposes. But you can actually see it in a very rough form in the SBS, I believe in like volume 13 or 12, I can't remember. But yeah, so I hope that they kind of either give a nod to that or just show it straight up. And yeah, the goggles look amazing. And Usopp looks amazing too. Like, Jacob is an amazing casting for Usopp. Like, I am amazed at how good he is as Usopp. I mean, they all are. In fact, the entire cast looks amazing, the old and new ones. And speaking of the new ones, we finally get to see Miss Wednesday, aka our favorite blue-haired princess, Vivi, played beautifully by Charithra Chandran. And oh my god, her outfit and look is ripped almost straight out of the anime. I know she's been receiving a decent amount of backlash and hate from idiot racist people, but I think she looks absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see her bring one of my favorite characters to life. Like, I will never for the life of me understand how you can be a fan of One Piece and be, this sort of hateful and racist person. Like, the themes and messages are completely antithetical to that sort of belief. Like, seriously, what are these people taking away from this story if you're living your life in that way? Like, I don't understand how you can call yourself a fan of One Piece and be that way. Like, you're basically acting like the Celestial Dragons. It's so bad. But anyways, yeah, it's absolutely unacceptable behavior from these people. And yeah, I will be supporting her like no other, because I think she looks great. Like, she and the funny thing is it looked like they opted to follow the anime design because they used the striped shirt instead of the circular ones. Um, so I'm assuming that they're probably also not going to use her weird hypnosis attacks that never came back into play after Whiskey Peak, which probably for a good reason because it was really silly even for the manga. But they did keep her peacock slasher weapons, which I really liked seeing that she was actually using that in the trailer. And, with this scene specifically, given that it's kind of in the dark on the sunny, I'm going to guess that this is probably in the latter portion inside, once they're inside Laboon and Mr. Nine and Miss Wednesday, they kind of sneak on the ship and try and take over. But then obviously they get beat up really easily because they don't stand a chance against the Straw Hats. But yeah, I'm assuming that that's what this section is. After that, we get a great shot of all three of Zoro's swords. Specifically, we see him unsheath Yubashiri for the first time and just go ham on all the bounty hunters in Whiskey Peak, while the others are obviously knocked out, aside from Nami, who is conscious at this point. But yeah, this is definitely Whiskey Peak, where Zoro is just going through all the bounty hunters. And I hope this scene, this scene right here is taken straight out of the inside of a bar or something, but I do hope that they eventually go outside and Zoro starts doing all that crazy stuff on the rooftops, because that was one of the cool things, and one of the coolest shots is him bathed in the moonlight and him like staring down like those 100 bounty hunters. And so I do hope that we do get some of that. Next, after that, there are more shots of the carnival fight, and like I mentioned, there's a great shot of Nami attacking the now thin Alvida, which, by the way, credit to Ilia Isorelis Paulino for getting into shape to play the slimmed down version of Alvida after she ate the subesibe fruit, because wow, like, oh my goodness, she looks night and day different from her season 1 appearance. So yeah, I'm impressed, and she looks great. Although we don't get to really see her do much, she's just kind of standing there waiting for Nami to jump and slam her with her bow staff. And I'm assuming she's standing there because I think what will happen is that when Nami does strike her, the bow staff will just slide right off of her because of her devil fruit power. So I think that's why she's just confidently just standing there, not even bracing or putting up a guard. So yeah, I think that'll be really interesting to see. I don't know that we'll see her like skating. Actually, I feel like they could easily accomplish that. That might not be a very hard thing to do, where she just rips off her sandals and she just starts skating on her slippery feet. But yeah, I think that'll be really cool to see. Kind of like the ending to season 1 trailer teaser, where Luffy shows off, one of his signature moves, and that one, it was the Gomu Gomu no pistol versus Alvida. This time we get to see Gomu Gomu no Gatling, which still kind of looks a little iffy, but I think it looks a lot better. Like I mentioned, this time it looks really good. In the sense that like it actually looks a little bit closer to what it looks like in the manga. No, I'm not saying that they need to make it look exactly like the manga. And I think this moment is probably when he's fighting. Well, I don't know, because it's not really raining, so I don't think it's when he's fighting Smoker, unless they're just not going to do the storm. I could see a scenario where this is when Luffy's fighting Smoker, because you kind of see a little bit of like smoke in the foreground of the camera, but I can't tell if that's just like dust or if that actually is Smoker. But yeah, it's hard to place where the scene is, or he could be fighting the the Buggy Alvida Pirate Alliance here as well. But the last shot is of them going down Reverse Mountain right into Laboon. And Laboon looks so good. And he sounds really good too. Like, he sounds exactly like he does in the anime. He looks a little bit smaller in comparison to his anime counterpart, but I still think he looks amazing. Like, the live action Laboon looks like Laboon, but in live action. It just looks great, I think. And one thing I do think, though, is it almost seems like maybe like Laboon is already prepared to like swallow them. So I'm wondering to shorten this scene and to cut it for some time. They're just gonna make it so that Mary just goes straight into Laboon, and they're not gonna have the moment where, obviously they slow down and Luffy fires the cannon, and then Luffy punches Laboon in the eye. I think literally just gonna be like, oh my gosh, we're headed for a big ass whale, and now we're gonna get swallowed by it. Although I will say, there's that shot of Nami, like where she looks really all defeated and terrified. I do think that moment is in reference to that moment where Nami, like the camera zooms in on Nami and she says, "It's too late," and then that's when Luffy fires the cannon. I do think that shot is kind of a nod to that, where Nami realizes, oh, we're effed, like we're going to be swallowed. So I do like that. Even if they cut that, maybe they'll have the same sort of, I guess, tone of the scene. So, and I understand they're gonna have to cut some stuff, and obviously one of the more ridiculous things is Luffy pistoling a giant whale's eyeball. But yeah, I would say overall, like I really like this trailer. I'm super hyped for season 2. I think I really liked everything I saw in this. Apart from all the Drum Island stuff and the characters, some notable characters that we're still missing that we didn't get to see here are, even though we got to see Smoker, we didn't see Julia Rewald's Tashigi, which I'm super bummed about because I really wanted to see her like in full costume as Tashigi. But another one I was surprised that didn't get included in this trailer to kind of serve as a bit of a hype was the reveal of essentially the main villain of this half of season 2, which will be David Dastmalchian's Mr. 3, aka Galdino. Like, I would imagine that even though we don't get to see his powers, we would maybe even at least see the back of him, maybe not the full face reveal or something, but Mr. 3 is nowhere to be seen in this trailer, which I was actually surprised about. Obviously they're going to probably save, Mr. 3 and the other Baroque Works agents, because we didn't get to see Mr. 5, we didn't see Miss Valentine, we obviously didn't see Miss Monday, or we didn't get a full, like a good shot of Mr. 8, Igaram. And so we didn't get to see a lot of the Baroque Works at all, really, aside from Vivi. And so yeah, I think that maybe they're saving all of that. I guess Robin, Miss All Sunday is a big part of Baroque Works, but she's a whole thing on her own, obviously. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts of season 2's little sneak peek that they dropped this weekend, which is awesome, and I cannot wait for season 2 to come out. Man, 2026 can't get here soon enough because, I'm getting really excited for season 2. But yeah, we'll end it here. And if you did enjoy this, send me a like or comment. If you want to join me on this journey of rewatching One Piece, please consider subscribing. Check out my Instagram at SunnyGo Podcast for updates when I post new episodes, and to see pictures of my manga collection and card collection. And as always, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to listen to the podcast. Stay safe out there, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Bye.